on it air, and I'm from Austin, and I'm in Dallas because my wife is running Statewide, but I'm here just because I love Progress Texas. Progress Texas delivers information that you don't get from traditional news sources. You know, they're delivering consistent messaging that's progressive, but not because it's biased, but because reality is progressive. Really, I just wish that we could return to a time when there's a common belief that there's an objective reality, that people would believe in science and all the things that got us to the place where we are, instead of, for example, having the return of diseases that we eliminated years ago.
Thank you, John. And we'll actually go there a bit this morning. It's Wednesday, December 17, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. We've mentioned, of course, that in a fun and slightly stunning bit of news, the Texas Democratic Party has managed to place candidates on every single state and federal race on the ballot for 2026. But an important aspect of that news had escaped me until Kayla Guo at the Texas Tribune took a little bit deeper dive and pointed out this morning that that's never happened before in Texas, not only for the Democrats, but for the Republicans either. The Texas Democratic Party, in coordination with the Texas Majority PAC and former lawmakers Beto O'Rourke and Wendy Davis, recruited 104 candidates to fill the entire slate in an effort that ensures that Republicans will face challengers even in the most remote and conservative districts of Texas, marking a departure from recent election cycles in which Democrats left an average of 50 seats uncontested. The hope is that contesting every seat will increase engagement in rural areas that statewide candidates rarely visit, potentially creating an upstream effect that boosts those statewide results at the top of the ticket. State Democratic leadership is thinking that running everywhere allows them to define their own message rather than letting Republicans brand them. And while the usual GOP talking heads in Texas have dismissed all of this as a gimmick lacking serious resources, actually, the Texas Majority PAC says they plan to spend about $1 million on recruitment and support in the belief that even a small percentage increase in turnout will yield thousands of votes impacting those statewide races. To get this done, the coalition held 40 rallies and utilized massive outreach efforts, sending over 2.3 million text messages and interviewing nearly 1,400 potential candidates. The resulting group is composed largely of political newcomers, 90% of them running for office for the first time. The Democratic breakdown includes significant representation from the working class. 1/3 of them work in education, 20% work in industrial or hard labor jobs, 15% are military veterans, and 10% are union members. We're talking a bit later today with Texas Democratic Party Chair Kendall Scudder and freshly announced new Texas House Democratic Campaign Committee Chair and Houston State Rep Christina Morales about all of this. Watch the podcast feed later this week for that talk. Scudder tells the Trib, quote, "No Republican gets a free ride in Texas. If you are a Republican and you want to hold public office in the state, you're going to have to fight us for it," unquote, and giddy up. Texas Republicans are not the type to admit this, but GOP types in all 50 states are certainly nervous about next year. What with their dear leader trashing Rob Reiner and his wife mere hours after they were murdered in their home last weekend, and umpteen other reasons to worry. But in Texas, the conservative culture war marches forward, and as always, the most vulnerable among us are in their crosshairs. There's growing concern about systematic surveillance being conducted by the state against transgender Texans. Lauren McGowie at KUT in Austin says the Texas Department of Public Safety has continued collecting information on transgender drivers seeking to change the sex listed on their driver's licenses, building a list of at least 110 people over the last year. DPS employees at offices across the state have reported the names and DL numbers of these individuals to a special agency email account and a tracking program that began after the state stopped allowing drivers to update gender markers on their licenses unless correcting a clerical error. McGowie says DPS officials have refused to explain the list's purpose or whether it was shared with other officials, and that subsequent records requests have failed to clarify how the state intends to use this information. All of this comes as other new state laws restricting the lives of transgender Texans come online, including measures defining sex on state documents by reproductive system and the bathroom bill. limiting public restroom access based on sex at birth. It's already resulted in bizarre armed guard situations outside women's restrooms at the Texas State Capitol that have resulted in at least one transgender activist receiving a criminal trespassing citation and a 1-year ban from the Capitol building. Landon Ritchie of the Transgender Education Network of Texas tells KUT that he feels this DPS transgender list not only violates privacy, but also worries about, quote, how this information will be leveraged in terms of drafting and crafting additional legislation, unquote. An estimated 161,000 transgender adults live in the state of Texas. A couple of new details emerge in the wake of this year's measles outbreak that's now reached across the nation, but is understood to have started within the Mennonite community in and near Gaines County, Texas. The conservative-leaning public policy think tank, the Hoover Foundation, has determined that the school district at the epicenter of the outbreak saw a massive reduction in attendance for months as that outbreak was playing out. The Hoover study highlights the severe educational disruption that's resulted, while local health officials identified 141 student cases of measles, which would typically result in about 564 lost student school days. The actual absenteeism was 10 times higher than that, totaling roughly 5,800 lost student days among the kids attending the schools of Seminole ISD, where overall absences surged during the outbreak by 41% compared to previous years. The impact was the most severe among pre-K and kindergarten students, who saw a 71% spike in absences, while high school absenteeism rose by about 25%. At the height of the outbreak, approximately 1 in 5 students was absent from school, researchers attributing this outsized impact to precautionary measures, including parents understandably keeping their healthy children home amidst a measles epidemic fueled by the presence of hundreds of unvaccinated students, all highlighting the broader consequences of immunization rates that are declining, frankly, by choice. Fueled by pseudoscience and disinformation, measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR vaccination levels have dropped nationwide below the 95% threshold required for herd immunity, leading to nearly 1,800 U.S. cases this year, the highest in 3 decades. Hoover researchers, again working for a conservative-leaning shop, emphasize that these fully preventable outbreaks not only pose health risks, but also exacerbate post-pandemic learning loss by disrupting classroom pacing and student engagement for months after the initial infections. In addition, one might think that the folks there in Gaines County might have learned a lesson or two from the scary situation they've lived through this year, but one might also be totally wrong about that. Lindsey Byman at the Texas Tribune says the Mennonite community at the center of the outbreak has been more concerned with the scrutiny they've received over it than the disease itself. And many say they're not only not more likely to get vaccinated now, but their distrust of the government and health officials who they feel targeted them and blamed them for causing the outbreak has deepened even further. Byman says that unfortunately that mirrors a statewide trend. Texas kindergarten measles vaccine exemptions across Texas have doubled over the last 5 years. In Gaines County, those exemptions have reached nearly 20%, far in excess of the 4% state average, with actual rates likely lower due to homeschooling. While measles is highly infectious and potentially fatal for kids, the CDC notes that 2 standard MMR vaccine doses are 97% effective. However, the Mennonites' history of religious persecution and sequestered lifestyle fosters deep skepticism towards government rules. Many members are undocumented or speak only Low German, creating significant cultural and linguistic barriers that make all of this all the more difficult. Health officials in Gaines County leaned on messaging via radio, newspapers, and churches to promote vaccination during the outbreak, but local doctors expect the anti-vaccine sentiment to persist. Experts emphasize that building future confidence requires establishing consistent relationships during calm times rather than only during crises, which makes sense, but despite that plan, the damage may be done in that part of the state. Medical professionals worried that the recent measles outbreak and how it was handled may have irrevocably eroded the Gaines County Mennonite community's already scant trust in public health authorities. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine, and we rely largely on listener support to keep doing what we do. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now. A huge thanks to monthly supporters Mark Melton. Thank you, Mark. Jennifer Barnes and Joanna Hood. We appreciate all of you very much. Join the team now at ProgressTexas.org. And while you're at the website, grab the merch to match your progressive values and those of the Texans on your holiday gift list at our web store. store, including our newly expanded Humans Against Greg Abbott collection of tees, stickers, and yard signs. Greg's got to go in 26, so let's go, y'all. All that and lots more at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Wednesday, December 17, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.